Greetings and salutations. Originally, this was supposed to be a paper that I was going to write and present at a conference. Then it dawned on me that what I was to write about, people in the conference already knows. It's not useful to them. And then a friend said, okay, give it a go. Try to do a podcast. So I'm attempting to do a podcast. I don't know how I can make this stuff super interesting. So I'm an annoyed engineer. What am I annoyed at? Politicians. I'm annoyed at, we'll say, protester groups that either don't see the whole picture or don't choose to. Politicians have an agenda. Sorry to my friends who are politicians, but there's a lot of crap going along in media and everything about energy. So this is what this is going to be about. I'm going to break this into a bunch of different segments. Now, if you do a little research, you'll realize I'm a senior process engineer. I've worked in oil and gas for a lot of years. Right away, this is about oil and gas. It isn't. It's about energy. Because whether you take it for granted, realize it or not, Canada runs on energy. So once you have that in mind, if anything, I want you to start thinking for yourself. But most of all, having an entire picture to make your own conclusions from. So where am I going with this? So a couple things. These are my rants. On the most part, I'm going to try to give you an objective view of how energy works in Canada, if you want to call it. I'm not talking oil and gas, I'm talking all energy. I'm talking hydrocarbon, electricity, solar, wind, hydro, all that stuff. Because Canada really does run on energy. And the other one, I'm not going to bore you with facts. Facts will put you to sleep. Facts can be kind of misconstrued. I'm going to talk about truths, which I think is more important. So how do I go about this and how do I set the table? So the podcast will be looking at a bunch of different things. One of the first kind of pieces that I'll look at is green energy, which from my opinion is just shades of brown. And I'll explain to you why. To me, there's only one green energy. So I'm going to talk about truths. The other one I'm going to talk about is called total energy envelope, which kind of a big term, but what it means is if you look at something, a technology or how energy is used in a small little box, it can be misconstrued. When you make the box bigger and you take into account a lot of factors, you get a different story. You get more of the whole story. Now, what I want to present is as objective as possible. I'm an engineer. I do things with math. That's why you probably don't have engineers and theoreticians and scientists running this country, because one, well, most of us don't like lawyers, it's something else, but we also don't like politicians because we deal with math, and in my case, I deal with practical science. So, truth, and we want energy envelope. So I'll set the table this way. We're going to talk about Cheerios, strange subject, I know, but let's talk about how we get Cheerios to the supermarket. I could say to your front door, but let's keep it simple and go to just the supermarket. So this is where I say there is only one green energy, and that is sunlight through chlorophyll to make carbohydrates in plant. Now it can be argued with, and to my engineering friends, I'm trying to keep this simple because this isn't for my engineering friends, this is for the general public. So sunlight, chlorophyll, carbohydrate. Yeah, you need water. You could be argued that the farmer uses some energy to plant the seeds, but so let's assume the oats in the field, which Cheerios are made out of, are seeded by themselves. They gather rain naturally and they get nutrients naturally. So that's the only green energy. That's it. Of course, you're going to look at me like, what are you talking about? Well, this sets the table. So if we got oats growing in a field, now we have to cut the oats. That takes energy. That could be in hydrocarbon power in a combine. Could be electric energy. Could be a person with a scythe. It still requires effort or energy, work, power, however you want to do it, to cut that stuff down. Now we got it in the field. We got to collect it. Needs energy. Whether you're using more hydrocarbon powered vehicles, electric vehicles, a person. Hell, you could use a horse and trailer if you wanted to. Then we got to transport that grain to a facility. More energy is required. Most people think, how do we transport? Once again, various forms of energy. You could do an electric vehicle if you wanted to. Most of the time, it's transported by a diesel-powered or a gas-powered engine vehicle of some form. Then we get it to the facility. We got to change those oats into Cheerios. I'm not going to bore you with the details of it, but Typically, traditionally, it uses mostly electric energy to do that with rotating machinery, cutting, reforming, heat. Heat can become from natural gas. So more energy to convert it. Once we're done, we use energy to package it. Then we use more energy to transport those Cheerios to the supermarket where you buy it. Now, there could be more energy. You could walk to the supermarket. That's still energy. It's human energy, food energy. You could drive there. You can take the bus, all this other stuff. My point is when you think about those Cheerios and the amount of energy that goes into it, it's quite significant. So that is a total energy envelope when we look at Cheerios from oats form into the supermarket. So this will be the first podcast. I'm still testing things out. I'm going to load this up, see how it goes. In subsequent kind of little podcasts, I'm going to start breaking down green energy and how it's not so green. But pros and cons, we'll talk about hydrocarbon. Now, I didn't say oil and gas, I said hydrocarbon, because we want to talk things about synthetic diesel. I want to talk about biofuels. We want to talk about natural gas, liquefied natural gas, compressed natural gas. Then we'll talk about oil. I'll even break down, because I've worked in oil sands a lot of years. We'll talk about the different types of oil sands. Why is it called dirty oil? I get in discussions with people in the public, and the reason they call it dirty oil just makes me shake my head. Then I realize the general public doesn't know this stuff or doesn't know how to put this stuff together. So I'm hoping these podcasts will kind of open your eyes. And again, my point is to give you an objective overall view. I've had these conversations with people on Facebook, on media. Friends have hit me up. So again, I want to present you truth, or what I see as truth. Now, towards the end of the podcast, you are going to get my biases. I'm going to be objective. I'm going to give you my opinions. But what I'm going to present initially is kind of the nuts and bolts of how energy is used. I'm kind of trying to be objective, the pros and cons, the total energy envelope. So we'll see how this goes. I'll try to load one up here in the next couple of days. Have a good evening. Bye.